Well, a very good Saturday afternoon. The GSA is now in the yard and we're going to need to replace some of the accessories on her. I've already done the mud sling on the back here and the Advant fender extender down on the rear side of the front wheel, and those fittings are bolt for bolt, action for action, exactly the same as the GS, so you can actually refer to those in a card that I'll give you up here on the right hand side. We've also fitted the twin USB socket here in the cockpit, and I've put the wires down here to replace the DIN socket to under the seat on the bracket at the side here. I just haven't fitted the bracket yet, purely because I don't have a bolt long enough, so we'll do that one a little bit later. But once again, that's bolt for bolt, exactly the same as the fitting to the GS, so you can reference that in another card up here on the right hand side. What we're going to concentrate on today is the Denali and the Innov stuff, so if that's of interest to you, you might want to watch on. So this is the unit we're fitting today. It's the Denali CANsmart Generation 2 unit, made by EasyCan, so it is actually an EasyCan product, but developed specifically for Denali lights. Slightly longer than the Generation 1 that I took off the GS. I'm not going to do this one spanner for spanner. I'm not going to do the K2 spanner for spanner. If you want to actually watch how that is fitted in full, then again you can refer to the video that I made both on the Denali, which is up here, and also the K2 fitting that I made, and again it's on a card up at the top here, so you can reference all of those on my channel. So here's the CAN bus system. Very, very simple to fit. It's the wiring threading that is the real problem, but these are the two main connectors. So this connector here will go into the BMW tyre pressure monitor, which is under the seat at the back here. We will show you that. And then the plug that comes out of the tyre pressure monitor goes into this one. So effectively what you're doing is running the CAN bus network into the CANsmart unit, out of the CANsmart unit, back into the tyre pressure monitor. Whilst that's then in the CANsmart system, we have the ability to bring into play these four circuits. The red circuit, which is the circuit that runs number 1 set of auxiliary lights, which we'll be using to connect the D4s. The short one here, the white one, is for a second set of auxiliary lights. Now we're not going to be connecting that at the moment, but a future video may well be the fitting of the main BMW official lights through the CANsmart system. That's really what I'd like to achieve. The blue one will go in the sound bomb horn, and we will be connecting that back up today using exactly the same bracket. So the bracket for the GS and the GSA are exactly the same, whereas the light units, the number 1 auxiliary lights under the beak, do use a different bracket between the GS and the GSA, because the GSA has to drop lower to come down around the fairing. And then finally we've got this circuit here, which is the yellow circuit, and that circuit is going to run, well, it can run anything. All of these actually can run anything, but it's designed to run the tail lights on the Denali. I'm actually going to be using B6 twin tail and brake lights. These two wires here obviously connect the CANsmart system to the battery. So the orange one is the positive with the inline fuse, and the brown one is the negative. So we'll be fitting that unit under the seat, and that will enable us then to power up our D4s. So there's the D4s. They will be going up under the beak in the same place as I had them with the GS, but on a slightly different bracket. We'll also be fitting the B6s, so I have 2 of these. They're 6 LED lights, and obviously by them going through the CANsmart system, we can set them through the software to use the decelerometer to work. So effectively, if we brake very hard, they will flash urgently to let people know that you are stopping in a hurry. So all of those types of things are possible with the B6. Whether we'll get these fitted or not, I don't know, because I've got to try and decide how I'm going to fit them, what brackets I'm going to use, and where I'm actually going to put them, because I want to make sure that they stay out the way of the hot exhaust fumes at the back here. So we may not fit those, but hopefully we'll at least give you some guidance. And then of course the INOV K2 cameras. So here's one of the cameras for the INOV unit, and we're going to be fitting the front and the rear and the K2 with the DVR again under the seat. So we'll certainly give you coverage of it, as I say, not spanner for spanner, but anything that's really different with the Adventure, then I'll let you know. But we're certainly going to have to remove some panels. So also at this stage I probably should mention that with a few of the Denali bits, I've received those free of charge from a guy called Steve Abel at A Bike Thing, and I'll reference his YouTube channel and his website down below. He's one of the biggest distributors of Denali products in the UK, so certainly it'd be great if you need any Denali products to look up Steve's website. Now I think technically I should tell you that it's a placement, but I have actually paid for some as well. So the B6 twin lights I paid for, and Steve donated the CANsmart unit and the bracket for the front lights. So it's a bit of a 50-50 arrangement, not totally a product placement. And of course, as I said on my video collecting the bike, that does give me the opportunity, if I need to be critical of not Steve but the products. In fairness, once again, I'm a bit of a Denali fan. It's very much plug and play, and it does work incredibly well in general. So thought I'd just mention that before we make a start. Let's get on removing the seats. So we now have the seats off, and here's the area here that we're going to be fitting the CANsmart unit into. So the CANsmart unit here, I'm thinking will slot here. It is actually considerably longer than the original one because it fitted in there quite easily, and it's actually just coming up against the moulding in the bottom here. So it might well be that I move that over to this side because there is a little more room in that side for me to actually get that fixed into the bottom. But we'll see how that goes, and we'll take you some stills once we've got them all installed. Obviously the wiring for the battery is going to need to go down under here, through the other side and out into the battery case just here. Sorry, wasn't far enough forward. So we'll remove this in a moment, and we'll thread the wires down through to get it able to be connected to the battery. I normally connect everything to the battery last so that we don't have any power down anything. And then the tyre pressure monitor is just here at the back, and quite simply we're going to be pushing the connector in here, sliding the plug of the battery monitor off like so. So there's the battery monitor plug, and that, the tyre pressure monitor plug, and that will plug into the CANsmart input, which is just there, and then the CANsmart output, which is just here and has obviously a BMW type plug on it. That will now plug into the tyre pressure monitor to make it a daisy chained installation. So that's how the CANsmart will go in, and as I say, we'll mount that one in there however we can mount it in, and then we'll get these wires down now into the battery area before we start taking parts off the motorcycle to actually thread the wires through for the various equipment, the sound bomb horn, the light, the front camera of the INOV, the rear camera of the INOV will come out under the back mudguard, and then we'll fit the DVR unit actually on top of the tyre pressure monitor underneath the seat here at the back as well. But we'll show you all that at the end, but we'll make a start now removing some panels. As I say, not going to do it spanner for spanner, piece for piece. Just be aware as you take the fasteners off that you know which ones go where. So we're about 20 minutes in now, and we're ready to start routing the wires and connecting everything up. Now she looks a little uglier than she does with all of her skirts and dresses on, but I think it's sometimes better to remove more so that you don't do any damage. But if we just take a very quick look, we've taken the panel off the tank here, we've taken the beak off, we've taken these top fairings off either side, and actually I've got the lower fairing off this side. Part of the reason for that is there's those horrible little nib things where you have to pull the centre pin out before you actually pull the fastening off, and this one is much deeper on the Adventure than it is on the GS, so I'm trying to get away without doing that. You'll also notice that I put all the fastenings back into their original places. That's one, to make sure I'm doing no changes to any of these fasteners, some of which have shoulders on, but most of all as well, it stops these little silver threaded connectors from falling off somewhere. Another thing just to keep an eye on when you pull the beak off, it comes off 2 rubbers. Just make sure that you've got both of those rubbers intact as you take that away. You'll also see that I've removed the upper crash bars, and I've got them tied here with a cable tie, just resting against the others so that I'm not putting any strain on the wiring of the lights, and I've got that done both sides. So as I say, my background is in motorcycle mechanics, so I'm whilst this may look a little scary, it genuinely isn't to me. I think I've now got it far enough. On the GS I just lifted the tank backwards, but I'm going to leave the tank on this one. It's an aluminium tank on the Adventure and a plastic, shrouded with plastic tank on the GS, so I just don't want to move this too much for fear of actually damaging the beautiful paintwork on her, so I'm not actually going to do that. I'm going to try and actually work from here now with everything removed and get the wires up and through. So we'll carry on with that and we'll catch up with you a little bit later. Okay, so barring the seats, we are now done with the Farkling, and we'll just run around the bike very quickly so that you can have a look at what's actually been done to it. So moving straight in on the back here first, you'll see that we fitted the mud sling. So there you go, just here, and that's literally just held on with these 2 cable ties. Again, you can refer to the other videos that I've done on those. I've actually not put the bracket in yet, because this bolt here is really just in a couple of threads if I put the bracket on for the DIN socket that I've moved from the front, but I will put that on in a minute. The connector is here, so that'll be all plugged in a little while. So that's that bit to do. And if we just move round to the front, we will see if I just move the handlebars, there is the fender extender, Machine Art Moto fender extender, again taken from the GS Dust Direct fitment. Then if we move up here, we'll see the bracket and the Denali D4. So that's her fitted there, and you can see the bracket then going up underneath and nicely cable tied. And then if I just move very slightly sideways, and hopefully I can be able to twist this and show you, there is the sound bomb horn on its bracket. I did slope that back a little bit because it was very close to the fork, so now there's a decent bit of clearance there, so that's that bit done. There's the other D4, but that one has the K2 camera on it. Now I've got a little bit of a problem with this, in as much as the beak on the Adventure here is much bigger than the GS, so I've actually, from this camera here, I am actually picking up the underside of the beak and far too much of it, so I'm going to have to move that eventually. At least I've got it connected, so you know I have got some security should anybody pull out on me or something else. But I am thinking that it probably either wants to go on the shield mount here, but if I do that, I want to bring a bracket quite a bit forward, otherwise I won't be able to bring the screen down to its fullest extent. Or I might even use the very strong 3M self-adhesive pads and maybe try and get it in here somewhere. We'll see. You can see I've fitted the GS screen protector, which came from a guy on eBay. I'll put a link to that down in the description. And moving around the bike, there's my Boomot toolbox. Actually, it's not got the lid on it at the moment because I had the tools out of there yesterday to work with. But there you can see the mounting again of the rear in-of camera, which just sits under the indicator there, which is where I had it in the GS, but the Adventure has a long stalk here for the indicator to bring it backwards of the panniers. So I think I may have to move it, because again, I have actually, if you look at this from the back, I have actually got a little bit of the indicator appears at the very top of that camera. They're very wide view, those cameras, and consequently it appears in there. So I'm thinking that what I may do, both with the twin brake lights and with the camera, is bring them down onto this rigid strengthening bar between the panniers, and push them upwards of that so that they sit between here and the number plate. So there it is. You can also see I've got the top box on, and I'm using the pad on the top to stand the seats on. But there she is. We'll now put the seats back on and she's ready to ride, and I'm chuffed to bits with that. I mean, I'm not decrying any motorcycle mechanic, but I'm sure my job and my pride and my ownership of the bike has actually made a really good fitment of those, where I've been very careful with the wires, very careful where I tie the wires, and they are looped so that they are pretty much invisible at any point when you look at them actually on the bike. And certainly if we look now here where everything is fitted, you'll see here's the Innov K2 power pack, and I've sighted that on top of the ECU here and underneath the main fuse box, and eventually the ride chip will go in here, so there's clearance on all of those. This will be out of the way because that's the DIN replacement socket, as I say, so that one will actually go. So that's all tucked under there and well clear of the seat, and everything wiring wise is down here, either in this tray or in the tray on the other side, where I've put the camera leads, and those all then travel underneath the seat brace here and into this back panel. So you can see now I've actually put the CANsmart on the other side because it is longer, the generation 2, but all of the wires are now nicely tucked away under here. This one I'm using as an accessory at the moment. This yellow wire is just temporarily posi tapped into a spare lead that I had to use the accessory socket because I've not got the back lights plugged in. We'll sort that out a little bit later. And there's the K2 DVR unit, which will sit very happily under the rear seat. The only other thing that I hadn't showed you was obviously the DIN socket, and the DIN socket is now gone, and as you can see is replaced with the 2-port USB socket. And again, you can see the video for that. I referenced it at the start of this video. So there we are, that's the job done. Nice screen protector there, you can see my camera reflecting in it, so very clean, very tidy, and I'm really happy. So if you've liked the video of me re-farkling the GSA from my GS, then perhaps you could give this a thumbs up. Comments are always welcome, as you know, and I do try to reply to pretty much all of them. And if you feel that this is something you might like, then you might consider subscribing too. But in the meantime, stay safe, ride safe, and we will see you next time. Thanks very much.